Feel and smell the difference of a luxurious lather for you and your horse with Cowboy Magic's Rosewater Shampoo and Conditioner. These products are pH balanced and contain rosewater, an herbal extract blend of aloe, honey, silk, protein, and panthenol that work together to break down dirt, sweat, and grime. The fast-working Rosewater Shampoo formula has a double action that allows gentle, full-strength use without damage. The Rosewater Conditioner strips away debris, excess moisture, mineral or chemical buildup from water, providing a deep conditioning and shine to the coat and skin, leaving your horse looking and smelling beautiful. To purchase, visit your local feed store or cowboymagic.com. Happy November. Today on Barn Banter, I am thrilled to have a special guest co-host. It is Holly, the fearless editor of Horse Illustrated, Young Rider, and Western Life Today. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Susan. It's been a minute. I used to be a co-host of our podcast back in the day, and you and Raquel have been doing such a wonderful job. But as we all know, Raquel is on a little bit of a hiatus. If you want to share what's going on with her.
I would. So if you have been a listener for a while or you follow her at Horses and Heels and Stable Style on social media, you'll know that Raquel just had her baby, a little baby girl, and her name is London Lynn, and she is super cute, and I can't wait to meet her.
Yes, and I love the name London. I actually had another friend have a baby girl about it less than a year ago that used the name London. And I swear to you, I picked that name out like 20 years ago when I was watching American Idol and saw a girl audition and her name was London. And I was like, that is the coolest name. And I never saw it again for 20 years until my friend had just used it. And now Raquel. And I'm like, that is just the prettiest girl's name. I absolutely love it. So
it is.
I like a random story for you, but she just posted a funny post on Instagram with a little Boss Mare pink onesie and said, oh, the laundry's getting a lot cuter around here, but you know, they get covered in spit up as soon as you put them on. And I remember those days. I said, yeah, you'll need about 3 outfits per day when they're that young, because they just, you know, get all kinds of fun stuff all over them. But it was an adorable little horse head, and it said Boss Mare. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look for that. But we miss her, but she will be rejoining our cast of characters in January.
Back in January.
So Holly, okay, so for listeners who don't know, Holly and I are friends in real life, and we met, I think, through my blog, and then we were both living in Southern California.
Yeah, well, I first somehow found out about your blog when I was living in Lexington, Kentucky, and I think I was either like knew I was moving to Orange County or was about to, but I just was reading your blog and I was like, I just feel like I know this person. I don't know what it was about you, but you just had the most like approachable, like, I don't know. I just was like, I feel like we should be friends. So I already knew in my head, like, we need to be friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Somehow after I moved out, we must have met up somewhere somehow.
Yeah. And then Holly, even I made her ride my horse. I had her ride night. And I know there've been times when I've been worried about Knight's nutrition and stuff. Holly is like a major science person, and I like horse nerd with the capital N, but like you understand things with nutrition. And
yes, I got my master's degree in equine nutrition at the University of Kentucky. I am a super nerd. I love science. I love nutrition. If I hear anyone asking about horse nutrition, I love to talk about it all day. So, you know, and the lucky thing is, even though that was a while ago, it doesn't change that much that fast. So it's kind of like you learn the basics and that'll get you pretty far. And you don't have to say you made me ride your horse, because he was wonderful. I'm used to completely bonkers, crazy eventers that are insane or spooky or running off all the time or whatever. And he was just so lovely. I just want to say he was the most lovely horse to ride.
So I have, for those of you who don't know, I have a 16-year-old off-track thoroughbred. Tis a Knight is his name. And he had a very lackluster race career, even though he was bred to be a champion. His sire is the famous Tisnow, who was the only horse to have won the Breeders' Cup Classic twice. 2 times. Yeah.
He's so pretty too. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time, but the last time I went to WinStar and saw him, he's just breathtaking, gorgeous.
Oh, so I saw someone posted them giving Tisnow a peppermint at WinStar. And he's all furry this was just a couple weeks ago. So he's all furry and he's looking older. He looks great, but he's older dude. And he's been retired from stud duty, I think, the last few years. So
yeah. When did he win the Breeders' Cup? That had to be like the early 2000s.
2001. And the reason that was so remarkable was it was kind of on the heels of 9/11. And so there's a documentary that I found on YouTube called Tisnow Wins It for America, and how that year Breeders' Cup was in New York. And I don't know if you remember, I mean, you're old enough to remember 9/11, but just the kind of somberness and people were, tentative about going out in public spaces and large groups and all of that. And so this sporting event, the horse race, was very meaningful to people, especially being geographically close to, New York City and all of that. And so it was kind of this patriotic thing that this American horse, did so well. And he's kind of a quirky guy. I think someone needs to write a book about Tisnow and I wish there was a Breyer. But anyway, don't get me started. We've got a show to do, but I want to make because I know you kind of took a break a few years ago from riding when you had your baby, and I've been seeing lately you are riding again. So tell us about your equestrian journey the last little bit here.
I am. So I was always like, I can't ever have kids because I just want to focus on riding, and you can't do it all and it's impossible. And this turns out to be true, but I finally was ready. I was just like, having a horse in Southern California is so hard. Like it's there's no turnout. It's just a lot of work every day. So, and I had just started working from home. So I was like, okay, well, I think I'm ready to take a break. So I had a baby that was almost 4 years ago. December is his birthday. He'll be 4.
4? Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yes. So I sold my horse after little Giovanni was born, and basically didn't ride at all for about 2 years, maybe a little more. And it was just really sad. Like, I just miss it in my heart. It is just part of my personality and I can't live without it. Like, I, just figured somehow I can make this work. So he's, kind of in preschool, like preschool right now. So it's a little bit easier to work some other stuff in. So I actually live across the street from a horse community called Nellygale, which is like horse properties with teeny tiny little barns in the backyard. People from the East Coast and the Midwest would laugh at it because it's all about having a beautiful house with this teeny tiny little stall in your backyard. But there's 33 miles of trails behind the houses. It's like real, dirt and wood chips and very well maintained. They groom it after rain, so it's always very nice. You're riding between a lot of houses, but there's also kind of some nature. And so this person right across the street from me was leasing out one of their 3 horses, and she's a little Arabian mare, which I've never ridden Arabians like all that much, but I mean, they're all different. It's like any breed. She's a little spooky, has a little bit of personality, but nothing I can't handle after my years.
Holly is a very skilled rider. I just want to tell people. So that's why I said I made her ride my horse. She is fearless.
Well, it's funny because people have this thing about off-track thoroughbreds being like so hot and blah, blah, blah. Well, The spookiest horse I've ever owned was an Appaloosa. The fastest horse I've ever owned, like hottest, was a warm blood. And the most chill, grandma-friendly horse I've ever owned was one of my off-track thoroughbreds. So I've had no qualms with off-track thoroughbreds. I love them. They're probably my favorite. But yeah, Arabian, she's been trail riding out there for 10 years. So she knows all the trails, which is great because if I'm alone and I'm not she has 3 horses, so all the leasers and the lady that owns them kind of try to pair up most of the time for rides. But if I'm by myself, she's like, don't worry, if you get lost, just put the reins down on her neck and she'll find her way home.
That is amazing.
She's got the GPS, which I think horses do just have internal GPS.
Well, yeah, because they know
trails, so
they want to know where their hay and their grain.
Exactly. And the other 2 horses are actually her sire and her son. So the old man's like 24. He's a gelding now, don't worry. But he's very cute, little gray Arabian. And then her son is this like beautiful Dappley Palomino. He's only half Arabian, but he is gorgeous. And she's chestnut with lots of chrome, and they're all just so cute. And I love it. And I love spending time there. So it's been a lot of fun, even though I'm just quote unquote a trail rider. That's what most people that ride in this country like to do. So
you know what? I know we need to have a whole episode, because when I hear people say, oh, we just trail ride, it's like trail riding is gnarly. I mean, because there's so many different types of terrain, different situations you encounter. And so I never think of it as just trail riding. I think trail riding is
fun.
awesome.
I mean, we have like such steep hills up and down. We have so many places we can go, and you can just do all kinds of stuff. And they also have round pens and dragged arenas in this community. So if you had a horse that you wanted to school in a ring, I swear nobody is schooling in these rings. They just have these rings all throughout this little area, and no one's riding in them, but they drag them every day. They're just gorgeous. I'm like,
that sounds similar to the community where Raquel lives.
Yeah, exactly. And then Coto de Caza, where one of our guests today is kind of similar, where they have there are boarding barns, but there's trails, there's home horse properties, and then there's these beautiful houses everywhere. So does that segue us into?
Yeah, that was a great segue, Holly.
I didn't even mean to.
You're a natural. You haven't skipped a beat with
I know. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest today?
So our guest, Adrienne Brandis, today is someone I met a few years back. I had the opportunity to go trail riding with her and some other horse friends through a friend of a friend. And we had a ball, and she is fascinating, and she has a varied background in terms of career and horse experience. I love the story of how she started riding, and she is going to talk to us about tips for entertaining at the holidays and ideas for how to have a more simple approach with making a turkey.
Yes, I'm very excited for that one, because I fancy myself a horrible cook, and I'm just completely intimidated by all of it. I've done one Thanksgiving on my own, and it did not come the way I hoped.
Are you still traumatized?
I leave it up to my mom, and she's like, when are you going to start doing this? So maybe with Adrienne's advice, I will be able to pick up some tips and take some load off of my mom. So that would be good. But our second guest today is Ava and her dad, Wes, and they adopted a horse named Little Man from the Equine Transition and Adoption Center that they found on My Right Horse. Actually, they found out about that from a Horse Illustrated article. So, Susan, I hear you have met Ava.
I did not meet Ava.
Oh, you didn't?
No, but when I was at
her story?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I met a woman who told me, like, oh, you have to hear this story. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, so that's our second guest today. And this, we kind of just, since it's November and Thanksgiving's coming up, wanted to focus on being thankful and how we can have fun with our friends and, just a little bit of entertainment. What do you want to call it? Inspiration for us horse people inspo for us horse people that are always wearing breeches and barn shoes and maybe
and cowboy boots.
or cowboy boots. Yes, exactly. So we thought this would be fun to kind of do something a little different this month. And we hope you guys like it.
On to the show. I am so delighted to have Adrian on the show. And Adrian is someone I met a few years ago riding on the trails in Santa Ynez. And we became fast friends, and she's fascinating. And because we're entering into the holiday season, and I know a lot of people, horsewomen especially, we spend so much time at the barn. Maybe we're not in the kitchen as much. And so we were trying to come up with someone who could give us guidance on how to add a bit of equestrian flair to our holiday meals, as well as just a fun person to chat with. And so, Adrian, you were the first person who came to mind at like 11 at night, because I'd been thinking about it. It was like, oh my gosh, Adrian would be amazing at this because you have a cooking show and all that. But Adrian, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners a little bit and tell us about your specialty with food and with riding and horses.
Well, it's lovely to be on the show. Thank you for the invitation and for having me. I am not a chef at all. I'm a self-taught home cook, pretty much. Having said that, I have been to classes all over the world just for fun, nothing super serious. Italy was always my favorite because the food there is so simple and so clean and so easy. And as far as my horseback riding experience, pretty typical of most women, the older women. You ride when you're younger, right? And then you, just like we were talking to Holly, you have your babies and get on with your life, and the riding kind of stops for a while. And so I started riding again about 10 years ago. I turned 65 this year. Yikes. So I also trail ride. But recently, about 3 years ago, I started taking dressage. So it's not pretty, I assure you, but it's it's really made me a better equestrian overall, even out on trail.
Okay, so Holly, for our listeners who may not be as tuned in with Holly's background, she's an eventer. And Holly, what are your thoughts on dressage?
Well, I hate to be such a cliche. Dressage is what I get through so I can go cross country. Okay, I said it. But I do understand that it's very important to our horse's training, and it can make any horse better. And, now that I'm riding on a horse that only does trails, I'm like, when you're not schooling them in the ring, they're like crooked and they only go on one lead and they lean to this side. So it really is important for every horse, and we can all just spend a lifetime getting better in dressage. That's for sure. I've spent, decades on it, and I feel like I have a lot further to go. So,
well, my point, and not to hog the conversation, but I was just delighted that I rode what my trainer said was an excellent 20-meter circle in my last lesson. So, Adrian, I just got a dressage saddle a few months ago, so I've gone over to the dark side with you.
Oh, there's some super comfortable saddles, right?
For sure. Okay, so then we want to hear about your horses, because I thought you had a Friesian. Maybe you still do, or do we want to hear about that?
Yeah, so I have a Friesian who I bought when he was 8, and he's like literally scared of his own shadow. He spooks at, if there's a sign up when we're on trail that says stop, that wasn't there the day before, it's a major thing just to get him to go buy it. So, but he's also in dressage training, and I don't ride him dressage, but he's become such a better horse as a result of that. He's in much better shape, and he performs beautifully in the ring, and there's nothing in the ring to spook him. So that's sort of he's a lot of horse, because he is, first of all, super big, super strong, and definitely has a mind of his own. He's very alpha. So about 3 years ago, I bought a little quarter horse named Maverick. He's not little, he's 15 and a half hands, but compared to Dolce, he is. And he was trained as a cutter, so he's really quick and reactive. But now we've been doing dressage on him for the last few years, and he's amazing. I mean, it's like driving a Cadillac instead of being on a tractor, you know?
I like that analogy. All right. Well, now we want to dive into the heart of this interview. And okay, help us out here. We need your guidance. You have a show on YouTube, and maybe you could tell us about that and then give us some encouragement with what we could do to make our holiday tables special for our family and friends.
Well, it's interesting because the premise of the show is basically the same premise of this podcast. And it's called Adrienne Brings It Home. And I go to a restaurant, I get inspired by what the chef is doing, and I bring it home, and I teach my audience how to make restaurant quality food in the comfort of their own kitchen, but in a non-intimidating way, because everybody's like, you know, and then I make that food and I serve that food at a table that I've just decorated, and I serve it to the chef who, interestingly enough, most times says, you're actually going to invite me to your home for dinner? Chefs never get invited for dinner because everybody's too afraid to cook for them, which kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago from a very good friend that people really want to come into your home because it's more intimate. They don't care how clean it is. They don't care if everything's in perfect order. They don't care if you're using fine china. They want a meal that's prepared with love, plenty of wine, and a great dessert. And that's the last thing they're going to think about is the great dessert. So I'm not a baker. So sometimes to make it simple, I just buy a dessert that's pretty, right? Or if I have a friend that loves to bake, I ask them to bring, which is something everybody should always think of. Everyone also always says, what can I bring? What can I bring? Say, what's your favorite thing to cook? And if that kind of fits in with your theme, then have them bring it along because they love to contribute instead of just bringing like a bottle of wine, for example.
I love that. I love that. And then how about some other simple suggestions for hosting? You know, people who aren't well versed on having a pretty table or even just the act of inviting. Do you have any guidance for us?
Well, I always ask people if they have any dietary restrictions, because in our world today, many people are like gluten-free. Some people don't eat shellfish, and so you don't want to make a lobster, you know. But it's pretty easy to work around that kind of thing, and it also makes them feel special and like you're thinking of them. I think the perfect number, and somehow this doesn't apply to Thanksgiving usually, but the perfect number at a dinner table is 6 to 8 people, because then you can all interact and talk. It's not overwhelming for the cook. But I think the biggest and most important thing is to plan everything in advance. It's preparation. It's like getting on your horse. You plan in advance. What am I going to ride today? Am I going to dressage? Am I going to Western? I'm going to do how am I going to wear? What am I going to dress? Blah, 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 blah. Wear something super comfortable as the host because you don't want your sleeves coming, you know. And even if, like, for example, my table right now, I was thinking about like would you set a beautiful fall table without spending a lot of money and time? And I just made a beautiful big pumpkin, and I put succulents on the top. And there's actually a YouTube thing where you can learn how to do that. Super easy. You need a glue gun. And I mean, I am not Martha Stewart. And I even did it. And then I put that in the center, and I just bought some flowers or some leaves that the supermarket has them now, or even Trader Joe's if you're familiar with that. And I put them on the side of it, and just a couple little candles, and it looks super beautiful. And I'll have the table that way from now all the way through Thanksgiving for fall. So
that's smart.
Now, I have a question for someone like me that's very intimidated by cooking. Like, what do you have any recommendations for, a holiday meal, even if it's not Thanksgiving, or just like an entertainer meal that is easier to do for more of a beginner, but would still have the same impact?
Well, one of the things I think that impress people when you're serving a dinner party is to have a couple of courses, because it shows that you put some thought into it. And one of the easiest things to make is soup, and people love soup. But when I serve it in a very small container, because you don't want people to eat a big, huge bowl of soup and then have your entree, right? And even, again, you can buy soup at the store and then doctor it up yourself with spices. But soup is really, really easy to make, and people love it. And for fall, there's so many, great soups to make that, and it changes with the season, because our taste changes with the season. In the hot summer, you don't want a hot soup, for example. I always like to have a little hors d'oeuvre when people arrive. It doesn't have to be fancy, even just some almonds or something like that, so they can have a drink with that. And again, soup is done in advance. You're not cooking it while your guests are there. So that's a great example. Have your dessert ready. So if you have a soup, like an entree, you can do mashed potatoes in advance. You can do scalloped potatoes in advance. There's so many things that you can then just warm up before you go to serve them. So I think that
I'll have to come over and visit both of you, because you're both in Orange County, and we'll go to Holly's house and maybe she'll make some soup for us.
I don't know. My house is filled with Hot Wheels and monster trucks right now. It's not in entertaining shape, but what about for meat? Is meat always the good main course, assuming you don't have all vegetarians eating there? What's an easy something you could cook? Would it be like a roast? Or I don't know anything about
turkey's really intimidating. I've only done turkey, I think, once in my life, and then
I did it once and it came out undercooked, and now I'm terrified of turkey. So yeah.
But I'm glad you both asked that question, and I'm going to give you the website for my cookbook. Last couple of years, I've done a spatchcock turkey, which is where you cut the backbone out of the bird, and you can have your butcher do it, or your guy at the store to say, I want it spatchcocked. What that does is it evens out the bird, so you lay it on a flat pan. First of all, you take all your vegetables, your onion, carrot, celery, and you just lay it on the pan, so the bird's sitting on top of all those vegetables. You open the bird up so it's like a bird that's laying flat out. Prior to doing that, though, you put salt on it the night before, so it's called a dry brine. Anytime you brine a turkey or a chicken or pork, it makes it keep the moisture in. So you put the salt on it, you put it in the refrigerator for 12 to 18 hours uncovered. You take it out, you just add pepper, you can leave the salt on it, and then you put it on your vegetables, put it in the oven. You'll have a perfectly cooked turkey in 2 hours. You don't need to cook it for 6 hours. And all you need to do is have a little thermometer on the side where you check it occasionally to make sure you have it at the right temperature for serving. And you can take it out of the oven an hour before your guests arrive. It doesn't have to be steaming hot, because you'll have your gravy steaming hot or your potatoes steaming hot. Most turkey is served at room temperature. And that recipe is in my cookbook with a beautiful picture, so you can see what it should look like.
I love it. 2 hours just seems much less intimidating for some reason. So
if you want to, and sometimes I do this for other parties, is I'll do like a trial run. So you could go buy a chicken and do the same thing with the chicken. So you're like, okay, this is how long it's going to take, a little less time, but you'll know what it's supposed to look like. And you can serve that to your family for a Sunday dinner before it becomes Thanksgiving.
Oh,
that is nice. Smart. I never would have thought of that. Wow. Okay, so how about, I'm sure a number of our listeners also are very good at entertaining, and this is not a big deal for them. Is there anything that is maybe a little extra special or fancy, either for dessert or side or some holiday themed item that would really show that you're going the next level?
My family loves my homemade cranberry sauce. Like, it's not Thanksgiving or Christmas without the homemade cranberry sauce. And you can also use it like as a jam on biscuits and that kind of thing. It is so easy to make. Literally a 10-year-old could make this. It's basically buying fresh cranberries, marmalade, sugar, and a lemon. Also in my cookbook, the recipe. You can make this sauce a month in advance. And you can either freeze it or you can keep it in the refrigerator. It lasts forever. And one of the fun things that I did last year was I made little jars of it and put a red tie around it for all the guests. And I used that for their nameplate. And then that was their gift that they could take home.
That's darling. I love that idea. Oh my goodness.
I know there's always a war between the cranberry sauce out of a can versus homemade. I vote homemade all the way. I think it's so much better. So I'm going to check out your recipe for sure.
Again, it's super, super easy. And my son, when he was growing up, he used to say, why don't you do the cranberry sauce that's round with little slices, Mom? And I'm like, so I finally got him over to the other side, and now he eats the real deal at 33.
That's good. He's seeing the light then. That's great. And then, Susan, I don't know if you had any more food-related questions, but I have some other questions. Let me know.
Well, no, it's not really a question. It's a comment. So, Adrienne, I baked during the pandemic your Irish soda bread recipe, and it was phenomenal. And I need to do that again because it just was so yummy, so comforting. And so I really hope a lot of our listeners will check out these recipes and your cookbook and your show. But yeah, Holly, roll with it.
And we'll be sure to put a link to the cookbook in our show notes so everyone can find it easily. But my question, I don't know how we managed to miss this at the beginning, is about you being a police officer. Was it the first female on the LAPD? I want to hear all about it.
Well, it wasn't the first, definitely. So there was a distinction between police officer and police woman for many, many years. The police women didn't go through the same academy that the police men went through, and they wore dresses and they carried their gun in their purse, which they found out wasn't real effective. You know, oh, hold on, Mr. Cop, or a bad guy. I'm a cop. Let me get my gun. So anyway, when they started putting women through the academy as a police officer, I was the 60th to graduate as an officer in LA. So there were 7,000 police men, and I was number 60 police woman. So when I went to my division to work the first night, they didn't know Adrienne was a woman. They just saw Adrienne as coming to work. And when I walked in with my red lipstick, it was a little bit of a shock at roll call. And yeah, it was harder to get the policemen to adjust than the public to adjust, to be honest with you.
Oh.
That was many, 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 many years ago.
I'm just thinking about the skirt and the purse is still mind-blowing to me. But so how did you decide to get into that line of work? What was the inspiration to go into something so unusual at the time?
Never, ever thought of it in my life. And I was halfway through my graduate school studying counseling psychology and called my mother and said, I don't have any money for tuition next year. Can you help me out? And she goes, you called it exactly the right time. Daryl Gates, who was the chief of police in Los Angeles at the time, is under a federal consent decree to hire women. And they're paying $38,000 a year, which in 1981 was a lot of money. So go join the police department. I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom. Okay, I guess I'm not getting a check towards my tuition. So I took a year off of school, went through the academy. There was a long lead up to that because it was very difficult to get in shape to get into the academy. Spent 6 months in training. And then I thought, you know what, once I get enough money for my tuition, I'm going to quit. But I got so enthralled in it. And I learned so much about motivation and leadership. And I was practicing psychology on the street. So I stayed on for literally 5 years after that. But it was a means to an end for me. It was never that was going to be my career. But boy, did I learn a lot about people.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think people don't really think of that aspect of the job, but that makes a lot of sense. You probably meet just about every kind of person out there doing that.
Yeah, I mean, not every call is a shoot 'em up, bang bang. It's like you're going to help people a lot, and I, as the woman, usually got sent out when there were calls to help children and that kind of thing, so I could take a child out of a situation that was in danger, and maybe relate to them better. Probably not such the case anymore because it's so common to have females on the job, and it's a different world today. I mean, when I pulled somebody over and asked them for their driver's license, they usually gave it to me and called me ma'am. They didn't pull out a gun or, it's a different world today for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, and
I
then
can't. Oh,
go ahead. I was just going to say, were you still involved with horses like before, during, and after, or when was your like early equestrian, part of your career or riding life?
My parents, we moved here from Ireland when I was about 6 years old. So horses are very Irish thing. Susan knows that. She's ridden there. I ride there. But so we were sort of familiar with them, but certainly couldn't afford them. But our home that we finally moved into, that became our family home, was in an equestrian zoned area. And while my mom was unpacking the boxes out of the U-Haul, I went across the street and asked the neighbor if I could ride their horse. I'd never been on a horse in my life. And she's like, sure. She gave me a halter and a bridle and said, go. And my mom said, I looked out the street and there you were trotting down the road. And that was the beginning of my riding career, basically self-taught.
I love this, Adrienne, and I cannot wait until you write a book because I want to read your memoir.
Oh, that's my husband says all the time. He goes, we should get somebody to write a book on your story. It's so unique. But yeah, well, maybe someday. We'll see. Thank you. Lovely compliment.
For sure. And maybe just one other thing, because you're such a multifaceted, talented person. So when you're not cooking or with your horses, your actual job at this point in your life is?
I sell residential real estate. So that's been the last 21 years. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've built 2 businesses and sold them, one in PR. I built a cosmetics and skincare company in line. I sold that. And then I decided to get into real estate because I didn't need a whole bunch of employees and I could just feed myself and not all of them. And it's been a fabulous career for me. It allowed me to raise my son with still being able to be a room mom because I could kind of do my own schedule. My son was a collegiate baseball player. Even though he played in the Ivy Leagues, I never missed a game in 4 years. And that was because I could use my time properly and smartly and still be a successful real estate agent.
I got to ask, just due to the current interest rates, have things slowed down there? It seems like everyone is panicking that wants to buy houses right now that I know.
Well, Holly, it's funny that you asked that because when I bought my first house in 1983, because I was making such great money with the police department, interest rates were 17%. So when you look at 7.5% or 8%, for me, it's not shocking. However, it's shocking to the buyer that 2 years ago was looking at a payment of 3% and now they're looking at 8%. So, right now we're saying buy the house and date the mortgage. So buy the house and know that mortgage rates will come down eventually and you can refinance. In my particular business, most purchases are cash because I deal in the high-end luxury. So it hasn't affected that. What's affected it is low inventory across the board, and that's keeping prices high. So it's a very different market than we're used to.
That makes sense. Definitely.
Awesome. Well,
Susan,
we're so glad we had a chance. Do you have any more questions, Holly? Or
I think that has covered more ground than any guest I've ever talked to.
I told you Adrienne was going to be an awesome guest.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you
glad
so
to see you and hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and holiday season.
Thank you. And if you, it's AdrienneBringsItHome.com, and you can find all the recipes we discussed. And if you do your spatchcock turkey, please send me a picture.
Oh, and tag you maybe on Instagram. You're on Instagram too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do
All
that.
right.
Okay. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Regardless of where you live, higher temperatures may lead to summer itches, skin sensitivities, or irritations for your livestock and pets. Mane and Tail Protect Antimicrobial Medicated Shampoo and Wound Spray offers your animals the solutions needed when facing wounds and skin problems. Made with a deep penetrating dual action pH balance formula, these products allow quick, easy cleaning and disinfecting of minor cuts, scrapes, and sores to help keep your horse's skin looking and feeling healthier. Mane and Tail's Protect Shampoo and Wound Spray kills a wide range of microorganisms, including yeast, bacteria, mold, fungi, rain rot, hot spots, skin rashes, and are true veterinarian strength antimicrobial products, leading to faster results. To purchase, visit your local feed store, Tractor Supply, or purchase online at maneandtailequine.com.
Banter with us. We want to hear from you. Share your topic ideas with us. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Saddle Seeks Horse and Raquel at Horses and Heels with the little underscore. Don't be shy. Show us some barn banter love by leaving a review, and you can tell all your friends too.
All right, joining us next, we have Ava, who is with her dad, Wes, and they adopted a horse named Little Man from the Equine Transition and Adoption Center after reading about My Right Horse in a Horse Illustrated article. So welcome, Ava. It's great to have you on.
Yes, thank you. It's great talking on this podcast.
So, yeah, tell me about how you saw the article and what kind of got your interest.
So we always like to have horse magazines around, and we started out with Young Rider, and then we eventually did Horse Illustrated, and we always had lived in New Jersey in like a small area in Monroeville, I think. Yes, and we had like 1 acre, and me and my sister always wanted horses, but we couldn't because we didn't have enough room for horses. So we always liked to read your magazines because they like showed us pictures of horses and talked about people who owned horses, and it was just cool to do that. So then we moved to West Virginia, where we had a lot more space than we did in New Jersey. So I was reading about an article about the adopting off-track thoroughbreds, and I decided that I should try to look and see on My Right Horse if there were any horses that like caught my interest or I wanted to adopt. So we looked, and the first horse I knew was My Right Horse. So we read his portfolio and watched, like they have little videos about the horses. So we watched that. And then I decided to try out for adoption. So we did, and I passed. So it was like really exciting.
Good. And what caught your interest on that particular horse?
Well, I think that he looked just the right size, and he looked really like sweet and friendly, and he had no health problems. So a horse that has like health problems I couldn't afford, because we always would earn our money through like Christmas and birthdays and that kind of thing. So he was on my budget. I could afford him. So that was also what caught my interest. So
I just had a quick question. Okay, so Ava, you're in West Virginia, and where was Little Man when you kind of discovered him?
He was in Oklahoma in El Reno. So we were thinking about that, and we were like, can we do this? Because we didn't have a trailer, and it's like 16 hours away, Oklahoma, and it's really far. But the ASPCA does offer like transporting people that can transport your horse for you. But then our friends have a trailer, so we decided that we'd like to have an adventure and go to Oklahoma and pick him up ourselves. So we did, and it was really fun. Like we saw lots of new places and had lots of adventures and stuff. So
You
What
had a
was it
horsey road trip? That sounds amazing.
it was really fun.
So did your family drive straight through once you had little man in the trailer, or did you have some stops and then he got out and stayed at a horsey hotel, or how did that work?
Well, we didn't go straight through. We did stay at a horse hotel, and it was a really nice horse hotel. It was Southern Star Farm, I think, and it was like an old retired man who had a bunch of like horses and all different kinds of breeds, and it was like a clean stall with fresh water. And so we did get little man out, and yeah, he stayed overnight, and then we drove the rest of the way the next day. So it was fun.
Well, now I want to know, when you first met him, what was it like, and had he been trained under saddle, and how did everything go? Did you get to ride him?
He wasn't saddle trained yet. So he didn't, like, I couldn't ride him because the ASPCA portfolio had said that before, but we decided that I'd like to train him myself. So yeah, when I first met him, it was really nice. He was like very sweet and calm and just really, really friendly. So I was really happy.
Oh, good. Well, I was just telling Susan how I feel like off-track thoroughbreds get a little bit of a bad rap, but my most like calm and laid back horse that I've ever had was off the track. So yeah. I think people don't often think of that, but it can definitely be the case.
Okay, yeah. So I think I'm a little confused because for some reason I assumed little man was a pony. So what is he a thoroughbred, or what kind of horse?
He's not a thoroughbred.
Oh, he's not. Okay.
He's not. He's like a mix. He's an Arabian. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's like Stelle Francis.
Oh, Stelle Francais. Yeah. Okay. I was just seeing because you read the article was about off-track thoroughbreds.
Yeah, I did. And
Gotcha.
I did see them, but they were really nice, but they were beyond my budget. So, and then he's
cute.
A Missouri, so he's a mix.
And how tall is he?
He's 14 hands high.
Oh, perfect. And how old are you?
I'm 11.
Okay, so that's probably a pretty good matchup then.
Yeah, it is. It was great.
Okay, so he hadn't been started under saddle, and did you bring him home and like take lessons, or how are you working with him?
Well, in New Jersey, we took lessons, horse lessons, yes, but we stopped when we moved here. But I had enough experience that I knew pretty good how to ride, so I'm still training him. I got the saddle on him once. I started over with groundwork because I had skipped groundwork because he would go through the round pen fence. So I got a new round pen and doing groundwork, and it's really improved his personality and behavior much more. He's like much more like not in my space. He lets me pick his hooves better. But I still haven't tried getting the saddle on him again, but I'm going to do that soon.
Gotcha. So. Well, it's okay to take your time and go slow. That's for sure. Yeah. It's hard to do all the training yourself. That's very brave of you. I couldn't do it.
But it's fun.
Yeah. That's good.
So
good. Well, he sounds adorable. Do you have any pictures? We'd love to put one in the show notes if you have pictures of him.
Yeah, I can. Where would you like me to put that? Send you to that?
We can just go through that separately after this. That's fine. But
yeah, I have a couple.
Everyone loves to show pictures of their horse, so we'd love to put that in there. That would be great.
Yeah.
Good. And how did you like working with the right horse? Was it easy to go through the website and the adoption process?
It was so easy. Like everyone was so nice, and they worked to eliminate distance as a barrier for adoption. So they offered us as I told you, they offered us the transportation, but we wanted to go to Oklahoma by ourselves. But it was really easy. Like it was easy getting onto the website, looking at the horses, finding little man, and going through the adoption process. And so then we did like a phone call with Libby Hannon. She's works there. She was really, really nice. And so then, yeah, it was fun and easy. So it's good.
Good. That sounds like a really nice match. So how long ago did you bring him home? How long have you had him?
We have had him for maybe 3 months, roughly. We got him in August, like the beginning of August. So yeah, 3 months, I say.
Good. Well, we always feature every month an adoptable horse that's looking for a home. So this is the first time we've done kind of a horse that's already been adopted to talk about the person who took the horse home and how they feel about their horse. So it's really exciting to get to talk to someone that's a success story and how it all happened. And we're so excited that you discovered the right horse through the Horse Illustrated article.
Yes.
I love to hear that, I read all these articles a million times and edit them, and just knowing that someone's out there reading it and took an action based on reading it, that's really
cool. I was so happy that I had gotten Horse Illustrated, because if I hadn't, I never have known about Little Man.
That's great. Well,
it was happy.
He sounds so cute. I really can't wait to see what he looks like, but that's awesome. And I know they have like DNA tests like we do on the dogs to find out what breed they are, but it sounds like you might already know what his sex is. So
yeah, he's a mix.
Oh.
So yeah.
Ava, just one other question, and we're kind of winding down here, but so am I correct? Like, you are the horse girl of your family, or you have a sister? Like, do your parents have any interest in horses, or are you kind of training them along with training Little Man?
Well, they do have a little interest in horses, and it's kind of like a mix. It's also kind of training them as I train Little Man, but they know a lot too. And I'm not the only horsey person in my family. My sister has a pony, and so we both like our horse girls. So it's fun.
Well, that's good. Then the horses have a companion too. So
yeah,
it was great.
And your parents would probably kill me for saying this, but the only thing that would make it even better would be if someday you do get an off-track thoroughbred. And I'm saying that, Ava, because I have one and he's amazing.
Yes, I've heard about yours, and he's amazing. I'd like to get one eventually.
Wow.
That would be.
The good news is they are always out there coming off the track, lots of shapes and sizes and personalities. They're always going to be available. So when you're ready, I'm sure.
Yeah,
we can talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure your parents hate our encouragement, because I know my parents were not into horses at all, and I had to beg for all the lessons and riding and leasing and horse eventually, but hey, it paid off. Look at me now. It is my whole job. So
yeah, that's true.
Well, that's great. Susan, did you have any other questions? I think this has been a lot of fun.
I'm inspired by you, Ava, and I hope that you guys have many wonderful rides together, you and Little Man and your sister on her pony. And we're so happy we had a chance to meet you and talk with you. And I just think it's a really special story, and our listeners are going to love it.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed talking.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Horse Illustrated can be found at horseillustrated.com. For special discounts on Horse Illustrated and Young Rider, just for podcast listeners, visit horseillustrated.com/barn banter.
Thanks for listening to our show. See you next month.